Seahawks head to MetLife Stadium this Sunday to face the New York Jets. The 3-8 New York Jets struggling, to say the least. But you know what? It's one of those games where you really hope this isn't a trap game for the Hawks. They're coming off a big win at home against the Arizona Cardinals to regain first place in the division. And they also have the Cardinals as well coming up after this game. So it's one of those games where, you know what, take it one game at a time. Don't look ahead. But we're going to get into that. We're going to preview this matchup for you guys. But before we get into all of that, guys, if you like what you've been watching on the channel, go down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video. All that is down in the description. And you can also buy us a coffee. The link is down there, helps support, and you can fire off a super chat as well. Everything helps, guys. Or you can just throw a comment on the videos, man. We love engaging with you guys. So the more comments, the better. We love the engagement, helps the channel as well, and it costs you nothing either. So with all that out of the way, let's get into this preview show on the other side of Hawkszone Rundown.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. And it's run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got a lead. Leon Wilson to catch. Jackson, Smith, and Jimbo. The Seahawks are going to host the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does. Is it going to be
You've
another
got to
9
look for
and 8?
players who've got a bit of something.
They have to fix the offensive
Part of the
line.
success and part of
Ambition of being the LOB
Want to hear? That's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the Hawkszone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Welcome back to the Hawkszone Rundown. Bryce, we got a matchup here, 3-8, but it's one of those things. We're going into New York. It's a 10 a.m. start, our time, traveling back east. Same old thing that we know that's what happens to West Coast teams. They, bit of a disadvantage, but we've been all right doing it. We've been playing okay on the road. It's the home games that have been an issue. We turned that around last week and with a dominant performance, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You looked at the beginning of the year before we started, kind of looked at the schedule. You saw the Jets on the schedule. You always do this, right? You go through the games, you say, okay, you know what, this could be an easy part of the sched. This could be a gauntlet. Jets were one of those teams, man, hyped up going into this year. Aaron Rodgers back, the young defense. Just this is a team, man. Some people had slated to, there's a chance they might go to the Super Bowl. It's just been a disaster so far for them, man. 3-8. Even talks of Aaron Rodgers not finishing off the year. Even this week, there was talk that does Tyrod Taylor play, man? What do you what's your assessment so far? Let's get into the Jets a little bit to, anybody listening and watching the show that isn't familiar with the Jets. I know Aaron and maybe a couple guys, but what's your assessment so far with this team in 2024?
Well, it's interesting, Ryan, because this Jets team, as we recall, last year, they got Aaron Rodgers. Everyone was touting them as now a playoff team. This roster was ready to go. You were coming off the awesome rookie year of Sauce Gardner. They'd added some pieces, and Aaron blows out his Achilles. And then it was like, okay, everything's on hold. We'll muddle our way through this season. Well, we get to this year, and they're worse than they were last year. And it's kind of shocking to say because last year was, Zach Wilson's horrible. And, Mike White, or not Mike White, sorry. Their other quarterbacks they were bringing in were horrible. The whole thing was just a dumpster fire last year. Well, it's a worse dumpster. I don't know what you'd call this year then, because Zach Wilson at a point this year last year had them playing better than Aaron Rodgers has. And, Aaron Rodgers, he turns 41 on Monday. His last game, because they were on a bye. Their last game against Indianapolis, he was 22 of 29 for 184 yards with 2 touchdown passes. But in the first half, he was 19 of 13 for 76 yards. He doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers anymore. Let's put it that way. Father Time, I think, is starting to catch up with Aaron a little bit, and he can go in his darkness retreats and Oshka or whatever the shit he's on. But honestly, man, he's just hang it up. You're done. Like, this team is, the Jets are in so much turmoil right now. And it's sad because they do have some good young talent. They've got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner. Like, they've got some good young players on this team, but they just have no direction. Like, their man or their owner is a meddler. Like, he's no better than Tepper down in Carolina. He just doesn't meddle as nearly as much socially and social media as people know. But like, even if you listen to Douglas, the GM, before he got fired at the trade deadline, he basically said in a press conference, "I do as the owner pleases." Like, that's a dead man walking as a GM. If you're saying that, like, have we ever heard John Schneider or Leslie Snead or any of those guys ever say those type of words when they're having a not so great year? Oh, I kind of do at the owner's pleasure, or please the owner, whatever I can do. Their defense, their pass rush was a strength last year, has completely changed. Hanson Reddick, they brought him in. Bryce Huff, they got rid of. They had Quentin Jefferson, an old Seahawk, who had a really good year last year for them. They let him walk, and I don't know, man. Like, Robert Saleh, I never was sold on as a head coach, but I thought he was doing a decent job. Now, like, even for their coach that they've got in there, I think it's Ulbrich that's their new coach right now, or their interim head coach. Like, he had a pretty good coaching resume as an assistant. And now after this, like, it's going to be tarnished by it. Like, look how bad the Jets are. They still have talent. He can't even rally them. And there's that. And then you got Rex Ryan going off now on his TV show saying, "I want to go back to the Jets and revive that." Like, come on. Like, it's just a circus, man. That's all you can call the Jets this year. It's like, I should rephrase that. New York football in general is a circus, whether it's the Giants or the Jets. It's just a joke.
Yeah, you look at Joe Douglas getting fired, Saleh getting fired. And I agree, man. I was never sold on that either. It's again, it's guys that come from certain trees. Saleh down there in San Francisco, and yeah, he put together a great defense. He had a great defense. Again, we talk about overlap, head coach, coordinator. There's not as much overlap as some people might think. And our brand new head coach was a defensive coordinator. But I mean, I Mike's just something different about him, man. And so it was just, yeah, it was weird. But that's the Jets, right? Bad organizations. You look at it, and you had this guy Zach Wilson, and not that he was going to be the answer, but I just think it's like sometimes teams just say, we're one guy away, and here's this guy, Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old. I mean, I don't know, man. It was like his last little bit of Green Bay was, you sort of saw the writing on the wall, and I just didn't feel like this. Again, New York football, the media. Here comes Aaron Rodgers. It's all hype. But I don't think anybody expected him to be this bad. And then, the thing about him too, I don't want to use the word cancerous, but I feel like he's cancerous, man. Like, I feel like he was doing this at the end of his Green Bay tenure as well, where he had a bunch of young receivers, and the talk was Aaron's not happy with his young receivers. Every time the camera goes in, he looks pissed off at them, and they just feel like they're playing tighter. And now he goes to New York. I need the same guys I had in Green Bay. I want Lazard and Cobb. And then the latest, well, let's fix it all with Devontae Adams, right? Let's go get Devontae Adams from the Raiders, and it's just going to be like old times. It's almost like you said, there's just no direction from the top. Like, if you're the GM, you're going with what the fans want. Like, how does this make sense to you, right? I mean, I just, I know we criticize John Schneider, but I don't see John doing stuff like that, So that just shows you the organization as a whole is just a disaster. It's interesting I bet New York fans are they got to be done with this guy. I mean, if I'm a fan of the Jets, I would rather just, hey, let's just get this over with now. Let's just get into our bridge quarterback and then, see what we can do. But when you have an organization from the top that's dysfunctional, not much is really going to change anyways, man. But, looking at that as a whole, like you mentioned, they got some good young players. So, it's not like, yeah, they're 3-8, but that's what you got to be careful with if you're the Seahawks, right? Because, we came off a pretty emotional win finally taking care of business at home. First place, a good Cardinals team, easy for a team. It's human nature to be like, okay, not a week off, but okay, you know what? We can sort of maybe coast a bit. And if you're a fan, just saying, okay, how do we avoid that? If you're the Seahawks, what does Mike got to do to kind of get this team just ready to rock, just like they have been the last couple of weeks, to say, guys, we this is still a professional football team, as bad as they are any given Sunday. How the Hawks avoid that and come in and just get ready to roll right off the hop?
Well, I kind of look at it, even though the Jets did lose their game to the Colts 2 weeks ago prior to their bye, they only lost by 1 point, realistically. Like, it wasn't like they got blown out. Like, they haven't been getting necessarily blown out a lot. They're a competitive team still, and you're going across the country. You're going there. It's going to be cold. It's not going to be, Seattle cold. It's going to be colder cold. And it's going to be one of those things where this is going to be a test for Mike Macdonald right now. You're in a different spot than you were 4 weeks ago, where you're trying to dig yourself out of being, a bottom feeder in your own division, essentially. And now you're sitting at the top of it, and you've got to capitalize on this opportunity. And one thing I heard Leonard Williams say in his post game from the Cardinals game was they've been treating this, it might have been his post game, it might have been this week during his press conference, I'm not sure, but either or, it was basically saying that they've been treating this like it's playoff football every week. Like, every week is a playoff game. And that's a really good mentality to have, basically, for Seattle right now, because they control their own destiny. Take every week like it's a playoff week. You're going to have the Cardinals here in Arizona in another week, another huge divisional game. And then you're, playing the Packers at home, the Vikings at home, the Bears are in, your Thursday night are in with Chicago. And then you got the Rams to finish out the year. Like, if Seattle plays well and treats every game like it's a playoff game, then you don't have to necessarily switch that mentality come the playoffs. Like, it's already instilled in you for the last 6 weeks. So I agree. It is kind of, a worrisome thing that we are playing a team that has some talent and, has some ability to, cause us some fits. But overall, like, you look at the Jets offense, they're 27th in the NFL. Their rush offense is 30th. So it's actually worse than Seattle's, their ability to run the ball, shockingly. And their pass is 18th and their scoring is 27th. And in comparison to our defense, currently we're ranked as a 20th overall defense. We're 23rd versus the rush. We're tied for 15th versus the pass, and we're 14th for scoring. So, yes, we've had these really good last couple of weeks. We need to build on that. We continually need to build on that, because Seattle's starting to get what we asked them to be this year, which was a middle of the pack defense. And right now, I'd say the last 3 weeks they're playing like a top 10 defense against the Rams, against the Niners, and against the Cardinals. They played like a top 10 unit. On the other side, defensively for the Jets, they've got Sauce Gardner. He's had a horrible year. Like, he's like he's hit a regression. We always talk about Reek on here. Well, when they both were rookies, it was who was the better corner. And they both seem to kind of hit a regression. Like, I wouldn't say a big regression for Reek this year. I think I've seen more positives from Wolin than I have negatives. But Sauce has definitely had one. And, you look at the Jets defense, they're 8th. They're a good defensive unit. They're 22nd versus the rush, and they're number 2 versus the pass, and their scoring is 13. And so for us on offense, we have the 12th overall offense. We're 28th in rush. We're 2nd in pass, and we're 15th in scoring. So it's like I said, it's a pretty evenly matched game in a lot of ways. It's almost like I look at the Jets, and yes, they're in disarray, but I look at their record, and I look at it and I go, this is what could have happened to Seattle if Mike Macdonald wasn't able to right that ship. If they weren't able to get things going in the right direction again, we could be sitting there looking at going like, we've got all this young talent, but we've got so much disarray that it's causing us to not be able to see how that talent actually looks all put together. We're the other spectrum of them. We're like the other side of the coin, kind of, in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you mentioned, all the young talent, and I mean, hey, there's a reason why some people had them going as far as they predicted, right? I mean, there was people that are thinking they're coming out of the AFC. Take that for what it is. I mean, I think, it's almost like with Russ, when Russ left here, we sort of knew what he was when he left and he goes to Denver. They felt like they were a quarterback away from, well, maybe going to the Super Bowl. And they're not really seeing it. Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles at 40 years old. I feel like it's like people just figure, well, we'll just slide him right in here. He comes off an injury that, maybe he's coming back. The whole stupid thing last year too, when it was like Aaron's on the sideline, he's walking around, like, look how quickly he's recovering from this Achilles. It's always about Aaron Rodgers, right? And I think a lot of that focus hurts this team, especially when he's not the same dude. I mean, I think, when he was the top quarterback or top two quarterbacks, when Brady was obviously in the mix, you could get away with some of that, like, look at me, I'm center of attention because I can go out an absolute ball. I think now, man, he's lost so much. You talk about the Jets offense, they don't stretch the field at all. You got a guy like Garrett Wilson and now Devontae Adams. It's a weird team, but I think for the Hawks, man, like you said, I just think it's one of those things where, because they have been in games, you just got to come in and I want to see, like you mentioned, build on this defense. You've had two really good games. Get off that hot start like you did at home, man. Leonard Williams just wreaking havoc right off the hop. What was it? Tyrese Knight coming in, getting his first career sack. They were just all over Kyler. So let's set the tone against Aaron. Like, let's just don't let them even think about having some hope against this defense and just get it rolling right away.
Well, one thing too, and this is the one thing I think that's hurting Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think he's fully recovered from his Achilles as much as he wants to tell everybody.
I agree.
That he is. One thing that made Aaron Rodgers great early on in his career and through most of his career was his ability to extend the play, get outside the pocket. Like, he wasn't like Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick type, but he was enough of an extender of the play and enough of an athlete where you were like, we can't just go nuts and, not have lane discipline in our pass rush, because if Aaron gets out, he can hurt us.
Right.
Now that that's kind of gone from Aaron and he's not that, and he's truly just a statue in there. If Seattle can really create pressure, Aaron's never been a great quarterback when he's had to deal with a lot of pressure consistently throughout a game that he can't escape. So that's something in their, in Seattle's hat. The fact they don't run the ball well with the Jets, even though they got Breece Hall, is another thing that, if Seattle can shut down that run game and make them one-dimensional for most of it, it should lead Seattle to have a pretty good, successful game plan going into this. The thing that'll be interesting for me, though, is how the Jets play defense. So to flip the side, the Jets play a lot of man coverage. They're one of the highest man coverage teams in the NFL. The last team that we played that played almost as much man coverage as the Jets was the New England Patriots. Geno Smith in this receiving core loves to play against man coverage, and so does Ryan Grubb. Like, I'm expecting JSN and DK to have a big day if these guys go man, because I don't know if they have the weapons out there to stop defensively to match up with our weapons. So I think, there's a good chance. And, another guy in this offense, and I know everyone wants to talk about Tyler Lockett, and I get that conversational piece. The guy that I've really enjoyed seeing, there's two guys. Cody White, I think, actually makes an impact a little bit when he steps on the field, more than Jake Bobo does. Yeah. And AJ Barner as a tight end, like, he is actually a threat in this passing game. Geno, you can see, is starting to go to him a little bit more. Yeah, he still has occasional drops. He's still a rookie tight end. But I see such a point where he can be that, like, check down option. So, it'll be interesting to see, who's kind of the big forces. But the big thing, I think, in this game, Ryan, and one thing I hope the Hawks do, Ryan Grubb, Scott Huff, and this unit, is I really hope they can get the run game going in this game. Like, there's a good opportunity for it against this defense. I really hope they can get K9 going.
Yeah, no, exactly. Those are huge. That's exactly what I want to touch on. Let's jump into the keys right now, man. Let's jump into the keys of the game. You give me a key, I'll give you a key. You sort of touched on it, but yeah, give me one of your top keys, man, for this team to go in MetLife and just be successful against this team.
I think the easiest thing is to say the defense, but I'm going to go with the offensive line, and not in so much pass protection. I want to see this offensive line impose their will a little bit in regards to the run game. I kind of went back and we talked about this off air a little bit before we came on, and I've kind of listened to Mike McDonald's press conferences, even going back prior to the bye week, and he kept talking about the defense and he kept using certain terms. It's coming together. What we're seeing on tape, and what our eyes are telling us is that this is coming together. And sure enough, the defense has come together. And 3-game sample here, we've seen it. He's using the same terms in a lot of regards when it comes to the run game. Even on his show with Brock and Salk on 710, he was saying there's a lot of positives we're seeing in the run game, and it's almost there, and it's almost there. This could be an opportunity for this run game to get going. And if all of a sudden we see a breakout game from K9 right now, and then you got to go play Arizona, and yes, I get that Bradford's out, but who knows? LeMaya or Haynes may, surprise us with a full week of reps is the one, a full game of it. That's the one thing I think for Christian Haynes, and I think for even LeMaya, if he gets in there, like Ryan Grubb even alluded to it in his press conference, they want a guy that's going to be the guy that game. They don't really want to go in with a rotation. Personally, I love LeMaya. And I know there's people there that love LeMaya in the organization. That's why they stashed him. I really want to see Christian Haynes dominate. I really want to see the guy that we all thought we were getting with that pick out of UConn come in and kind of cement himself. Because I don't think Bradford's coming back this year. They put him on IR, and I think it's a pretty bad ankle sprain that he got, a high ankle sprain. So that's my key matchup is Seattle's run game versus this defense for the Jets.
Nice. And you know what? The nice thing is you talk about Christian Haynes. You got Abe Lucas back at that tackle spot. And, Olu, getting now another game that he'll have under his belt at center, sort of maybe gelling a little more and helping. I mean, that's got to be a big help there with Abe on that line now and just helping everybody and Olu and just it's going to be nice to see this O-line grow, and then hopefully in the offseason we'll go after a veteran guard. But one of my keys, man, is kind of a combination. You mentioned Grubb getting the running game going. Mine is kind of a two-part. So Geno has to have a clean game. We mentioned that, and they're coming off 2 wins in a row, and he didn't particularly have a clean game. There was interceptions in both those games, but he did make up for it where he came back. He put those behind him. He, last week they put together an 8-minute drive, the caps off with a field goal by Jason Myers. But so a key to me is just Geno coming out on the road with a clean game. Doesn't have to do anything spectacular. If it's not there, throw it away. Live another day. But I want to see Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb's a key that helping out Geno, helping out this offensive line. Whether that's getting him out of the pocket a little more, whether that's a little, some more quick passes. Like you said, if the Jets play man, though, there's opportunities to attack man one-on-one. JSN, DK, Tyler, the 3-headed monster there. But I want to see a little more out of Ryan Grubb. So my key is just seeing a little more creativity on both the run game and helping out Geno Smith and that O-line to make sure Geno has that clean game. And so a little more focus, because like you and I said, this next 6 games, it's big for the Hawks, obviously, for this playoff push, but also Ryan Grubb. We talk about how are these next 6 games. Mike's not married to anybody. We've seen him made moves, player personnel in the middle of the season quickly. So really, we think there's same thing with the coaching staff. How's Ryan Grubb going to show that, hey, you know what? No, I deserve this job for the next couple seasons, or at least next season. So that's going to be key for me to see just how Grubb comes out and responds, and just having some different looks here for this offense to really get this offense going. We sort of kind of haven't worried about it because the last couple of weeks, how dominant, especially last week, this defense was. But at some point, they got to get more efficient and get more of a flow to this offense. And really, that's on Ryan Grubb.
I totally agree. And just to, add some context for our listeners in regards to Geno in the red zone. So Chris Clough, friend of the show, does great stuff on Twitter, put out a really interesting stat a couple days ago. I have it bookmarked and reposted on my X page, so you guys can go look at it there. But Smith has completed just 47.5 in the red zone this year with 6 touchdowns and a league high 4 interceptions in the red zone. For comparison, Josh Allen is just at 50%, but he's 14-1 with TD to interception ratio. Smith was 43% in the red zone last year. He was 15-2 for touchdown to interception ratio. And just a little nugget, Sam Howell last year was 49.2% in the red zone, 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions with Washington. So I'm not saying Sam Howell starts, so people don't jump in the comments and think that's what I'm saying here. I love Geno. I think Geno's the right quarterback for us right now. But what I will say, that drastic change in touchdown to interception ratio in the red zone got to go in a more positive trend. I want to see, hopefully by the end of this year, maybe it's 12 touchdowns in the red zone to 4 interceptions. He doesn't throw anymore, or if he does, it's 5. He throws 1 more the rest of the year. But it's a concerning thing when I see like a comparison of Josh Allen, who we all deem as one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. The percentage of completion is about the same, but it's that 14-1 TD ratio. And we've got weapons like DK and JSN and these guys. And I think it's just decision-making in the red zone. And I think that's where one thing I'll say the Bills do better, and it ties into both of our points here, Ryan. I think the bigger factor is the Bills run the ball better in that area. And I think Geno sometimes, like the interception he threw versus the Cardinals, that was a press. He's pressing to make a play rather than just taking the easy one. He's trying because he's not sure. Maybe we don't get back down here because the offense is sputtering. Geno just needs to make the right choice, the right play, not necessarily force it. And the worrisome thing is you tell him not to do that, and he doesn't do it later on when Geno connects with DK in triple coverage, and it's we're all going, oh my gosh, what a pass, and it keeps the drive going later on in the 8-minute period of the fourth quarter. But honestly, like, just to clean that up, if that gets cleaned up, I think you can see this offense start to score a little bit more, because potentially that's 28 points this team could have scored throughout this season that are off the board because of those interceptions.
Yeah, and at some point they're going to come back and bite you. Like we said, the defense was so dominant, but when he threw that red zone, the latest red zone pick, Arizona's got the ball back. If they come down and put a drive together and score a touchdown, now it's a brand new ball game. And that would be a 14-point swing. It didn't happen. Fortunately, the defense is balling. But again, you are down in the red zone, man. You have to walk out of there with points. So not only are you turning the ball over, giving the momentum shift to the other team, you're coming out with 0 points. You got to walk out of there with at least 3. There's going to be games where the defense, I don't expect them to be that dominant every single week. This isn't the 2.0 Legion of Boom right now.
No.
Hey, listen, this defense could become something. They can, but right now, you and I are not going to sit here and be like, yep, they're on their way to dominance. We just saw it 2 games. It's way too early. They sure look good, but again, you can't expect them to just get you out of trouble all the time now just because they did say last week. He's got to clean that up, man. And it is a thing. I get the running the ball, but again, it really, some of those things, just decision making. If you're pressing, again, that's on you. That, if it's not there, throw it away. Whatever. Jason Myers comes out, kicks 3. That's fine. But yeah, so give me another key.
Another key for me is actually going to be this offense. I'll go defense. Actually, I was going to go offense, but I'll go defense. It's going to be this defense's ability to keep creating turnovers.
Nice.
Kobe Bryant had an interception this last game. Spoon's been really kind of around the ball, creating turnovers. San Francisco game, he basically created our 2 interceptions that we've had. They almost had the strip sack fumble return earlier in the Cardinals game. So keep doing that. Keep applying pressure. Keep getting takeaways. That's the one thing I want to see this defense do in this game. Try and get a couple from Aaron Rodgers. He's prone to throw into, some bad situations. Try and get a couple turnovers. Keep that trend going where, you're taking the ball away once or twice a game.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, it's one of those things that, you win the turnover battle, you're probably going to win the game. And I like that. I just want to see this defense, Spoon just looks rejuvenated. Like you said, somebody said something to him maybe in the bye week, and it's just like all of a sudden here he comes. Because a lot of people were wondering, where is Spoon early on in the year, but I really think it's not a coincidence too, since Ernest Jones came in this building. A little bit of different swag on this ball club right now on the defense side of the ball. You kind of look at it now, and you kind of got Ernest Jones there in the middle linebacker spot, kind of Spoon out there is your secondary, and Leonard Williams wreaking havoc. So are your leaders. I know you can throw Julian Love in there too. So your leaders, you sort of got a nice little group of leadership happening here. Spoon being that younger guy, Ernest Jones having the experience coming in. Knows what it takes. So my key is just, Ernest just, doing his thing again, just being consistent, and that whole front stopping the run, Brees Hall, if he's ready to go, putting an end to that and enforcing Aaron to say, okay, you know what, I'm not really mobile. I got to sit here and just make plays. And we've seen that they really aren't stretching the field this year at all. So you sort of eliminate that and plug that up and make Aaron try to beat you, 41-year-old Aaron that's not really healthy, man, that could be good news for this defense, man. So, I think overall you do all those things that we touched on, man. We could come out of here. And I think the biggest key, I know we sort of touched on it, would really be just, I'll emphasize this, is just getting off to that quick start. Like, I know it, because that's going to be the tough part. It's 10 a.m. our time. It's not easy, right? So you got to say, okay, we got to be awake and ready to go, and just remember what you did last week against Kyler and how hyped up and how much energy was there with that squad because you got on them early, and you just want to do the same thing. And I don't see why we can't. So that's the biggest thing, but it's how are we prepared and ready to go, how to start this game. So to me, out of all the keys, that's the biggest one, because we just got to set the tone.
No, and I agree. And just to kind of go over the, injury report as it is, this will come out Friday. It's Thursday night right now. So the Hawks basically currently, Tyler Lockett and DK haven't practiced all week. They've both been nursing. Tyler's been nursing a knee injury. DK's been a shoulder. Leonard Williams also hasn't practiced all week. He's been on the did not participate with a foot injury. There's been some veteran rest days. New safety that we acquired off of waivers, AJ Finley, was out with an ankle on Wednesday, and he was limited today. Chenna's back. That's a big thing. Chenna's back practicing. So we may get Chenna back for that Cardinals game. They said he's not playing this game, but he could be back coming up for this Cardinals game, which would be great. And then your full participants through most of the week have been, Noah Fant's back, Laviska Shenault, Draymond Jones, Rayshon Jenkins, Stone Forsythe, designated return off IR. He's been a full participant both days. But the other thing is, people are going to look at this report and they're going to see that he was a full participant and then he wasn't on Thursday. It's just a rest day. It's just to work him back into the swing of things. There's been nothing reported that he's been having any issues with that knee since he's come back. It's just kind of a rest situation. And Ernest Jones popped up on today as a limited participant with his elbow and knee. So hopefully that gets cleared up. But, guys I wouldn't necessarily count on. Brady Russell's interesting because he came back and was a limited participant on Wednesday. He's coming off that foot, and then he's back to being a non-participant today. So maybe Brady Russell isn't fully back. But I haven't heard anything definite about DK and his shoulder being something that he may not play. He could just be, we've seen it before with DK. He goes all the way up till Friday, and then he's good to go through a warm-up on Sunday, and he plays. So if Tyler can't go because of his knee, I would expect Cody White to get some more snaps in there. I've been, seeing him get on the field, and he's popped when he's been on the field. That's one thing I've been really impressed with Cody White. And in some respects, just a kind of a jump ahead look, a quick little nugget. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy's not more of a receiver for us next year, and maybe oversees Jake Bobo's spot because he blocks well, and he's also kind of an effective pass catcher and runs with the ball well after catching it.
Yeah, is real quick before we're going to get into some game changers, because that's kind of what we do now in these preview shows. Is the Bobo hype slowing down a little bit? Because, he was such a fan favorite coming into last season, and I get it. But, the whole 4.99 40 and look at this guy, he's making plays. Oh, man, it's just, and I'm glad it simmered down a little bit because, even the talks of, we can move on from DK or DK's hurt, just slide Bobo in there. It's like, guys, he's got limited tools You can put him in the right in certain situations, but really when I look at it, and I like him, he's a gamer, but he's limited. He's limited in his abilities, like you said, guys like Cody White. What do you think, man? Is that gonna die off eventually? Not that he's not gonna be on this team, but just this hype with Bobo.
Well, I look at it this way. So I'll just throw some numbers out at you. Last year, he had 24 targets, 19 catches, 196 yards, and 2 touchdowns. His overall grade was on PFF, and again, PFF take with a grain of salt any of their stuffs and gradings, but he came out with a 73.5 at the end of the year, 70 for receiving, 63 for rushing because he had the one rush attempt. If I pull up this year for Jake Bobo, he's had 14 targets, 10 catches, half or just over halfway through the season now for 89 yards. His overall grade is a 55. Like there has been a drop off. He's nowhere near, as effective as he was last year, I don't think. And I honestly don't know if Ryan Grubb knows how to use him as we kind of thought maybe he did. If you look at Ryan Grubb's track record at University of Washington with the receiving core, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Roma Dunze, Taj Davis, and guys like that. They were guys that could stretch the field and were a little bit more smooth route runners. Jake Bobo really isn't that. Jake Bobo's really built for a run, in my opinion, a run-heavy offense that runs a lot of in-breaking routes under 15 yards. It's not trying to take the top off, that relies on play action because it gives him that extra time to get his separation. That's where I see Jake Bobo, and that's why I think, with Cody White, he's the guy that, I've been more impressed with the more reps he's kind of gotten. And as I go look for him right now, just give me 1 second here as I look for his stats. But he's been a guy that I've been more impressed with because he does possess a better skill set as a receiver, and I think fits into this offense more, which is why I think you're seeing, the reps go to him. But if I look at his stats, like he's got 3 targets, 2 catches, 44 yards. He on 2 catches has half the yards of Bobo in the same season. Like, it's kind of, to me, I think Cody White may have already jumped Bobo in a lot of ways. And I just look at that. He's been basically elevated for 3 games. And in 3 games, he's had half of Jake's total for the year in yards on 2 catches. And Jake's had 8 more catches and he's had 11 more targets. So that should maybe paint a bit of a picture of how they kind of view Jake Bobo right now. I think they view him more as a special teams guy that helps out on special teams than he is truly a receiving option in this offense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Real quick, and we'll get into some games. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really touch on Mike McDonald's press conferences, stuff like that. Interesting to hear, certain guys, you talk about guys playing no matter what situation is, guys like Rayshon Jenkins coming off an injury, losing his spot, but still that third safety role and played a really good game against Arizona. And then guys like Trey Brown, seen a lot of special teams and Mike saying, listen, these guys are working hard. They're doing their thing. They're not, their roles are important, even though it's a lesser role. They got Trey doing a lot of special teams. Just guys are still ready. It feels like guys are buying into this thing right now. There's no one, doesn't feel like anyone's disgruntled with their role. You look at a guy like Trey, obviously, he had a few poor games there where he was just lost in coverage. I can't remember that one particular game, but just didn't look good. And then obviously got hurt. And then we've had other guys, and now Job's taken over there. But you like that. You like that with this squad right now. Just it feels like there's this buy-in collectively. No matter what, everyone's got a role, and it's important. If you've got a little lesser role right now, that's fine. You keep working. You're going to eventually get your turn. Your number is going to be called. Is that the feeling you get right now with this squad, especially with this defense, this energy? I mean, it's just, to me, it goes hand in hand, right? Like the way this team is just feeding off each other, like that's got to be exciting to be a part of a team like that.
Yeah, I honestly think this defense is now bought into what Mike McDonald's selling. They're seeing the dividends of doing that. I think there was a little hesitation earlier on, and guys were trying to do too much. They weren't trusting the guy next to him to, as Bill Belichick always says, do your job. I think they were struggling with that, but I think now you've seen that buy-in. I've seen the guys really understand what they're doing, and the communication has been much more on point. I think Josh Jobe has done a great job actually as the third corner. I think he's going to be our third corner next year because I think they're going to let Trey go and test free agency. As much as we talked about Trey in the offseason, we thought, he was going to be the guy that, was going to get a big payday. Trey hasn't played well enough to get that payday. Like, he may get it from some team that's really desperate for a decent corner, but I don't know if he'll get it in Seattle here. And then, like you talked about, Rayshawn Jenkins came back in and didn't complain, didn't whine, went and played the third safety role, and I think it's a better role for him. Like, he wasn't nearly as exposed in the game against the Cardinals. He was really good at coming down, making tackles out in the flat and doing those kind of things. So, the Kobe Bryant, position of him taking over at safety may have actually been a blessing in disguise for Rayshawn Jenkins and for this whole unit, because him and Julian Love back there, I know people are going to, when I say this, people may take this and go, I'm nuts. I think Julian Love and Kobe Bryant as a unit right now are better off than what we had the last couple of years when we had Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs back there.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I agree with that 100%. And especially because I think when Quandre first came here, like, he was lights out. You were loving this dude. Loving this dude. But really, when you look at Quandre and Jamal as that unit, like, at what particular time were they both really effective? Maybe Jamal's first year here, but again, he started becoming had this specific role, right? Where he was, we were coming off blitzes and he had, I think, 8 or 9 sacks. Like, but again, Jamal just felt like obviously poor in coverage, and then the injuries, added up. So when you look at those two as a unit, now you have Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. And first of all, the age of Kobe Bryant, right? Young. And you like, this guy could be a long-term safety here. So that gets you excited. And with Julian Love, who's just flying around, right? It's exciting. You know what? And we're going to get into, we're off tangent a little bit, but just when you look at this team and just the way some of this defense has come together, we talk about Mike needs his guys. We thought, hey, we got to wait for the offseason. We got to wait for the offseason. This is what it is. Okay, they go make the trade for Ernest Jones. Okay. I mean, what a move. And then, we talk about opportunities, right? You talk about Christian Haynes getting his opportunity because of Bradford, Kobe Bryant getting his opportunity. It almost feels like there was another acquisition, even though he's on this roster. You had Rayshawn and unfortunately for him, he gets hurt, gives Kobe an opportunity. So to me, that feels like almost like another acquisition. You had Ernest, and it almost like you have another safety, and then things started clicking, and guys are buying in, and you're just kind of excited. Leonard Williams just going off. We talk about we haven't even talked about Byron Murphy. How maybe he's not huge on the stat sheet, but he's taking
a lot of double teams,
and his number will be called. All of a sudden, we'll be like, wow, what a game! What numbers wise. Stat wise, all of a sudden Byron goes off, and it's going to happen. Maybe it happens this week. I'd love to see it just for Byron. You're just, because you put in the work and you work hard. You want to be rewarded. You want a couple of sacks on the stat sheet and whatever. And I think his number you're going to see that. But I'm just, yeah. And you know what? There's going to be some ups and downs still with this defense, but it's trending big time, man. It's awesome.
Here's the one thing I'm going to say, though. Just, we're talking about Kobe and Jamal and that whole thing. When we made that trade and we traded away Bradley McDougald and got Jamal Adams, the pick that we used with that pick was Kobe Bryant. Bryant. Jamal Adams came here and it was a failed experiment, but we did still end up with Kobe Bryant out of that deal. And it looks like it's been a pretty good draft pick there for Seattle since then. He didn't work out as a nickel corner. Could still play it if we needed to in a pinch, but he's definitely found himself in the NFL as a safety.
Yeah, and I will say this too, and I get it. You look back at the Jamal trade, and you're gonna it's easy to criticize John. You could say, you know what, you gave up too much. It's for a safety, but at the time, if you looked, and maybe some of the fan base would say, well, that was a lot, but this guy was coveted. We were looking for answers on the defense. We really were, and we needed some guy that could be a difference maker. And it didn't work out. But like you said, you moved on from him. It wasn't like you gave him the contract, but you moved on from him. And now, like you said, Kobe Bryant, you got Witherspoon, you got this young nucleus now. So, you moved on from your linebackers that you signed to 1-year deals that didn't work out, and you brought in Ernest Jones. So you got to give him credit where credit's due. You take some shots; they're not all going to work, and you move on. You move on. I mean that's how you got to look at it. And now you see, okay, now what are you going to do? What are we going to do here? Moving on with this team, so it's exciting. Let's get into some game changers, man. Give me a game changer, both sides of the ball for you, man. Start with the offense, man. Give me a game changer that at the end of the day, if this guy's from your prediction, and it's going to be good things to come here on Sunday.
For my game changer, I'm hoping it's Christian Haynes. I'm hoping Christian Haynes comes in at right guard and has a good game and kind of hopefully put some more credit back into his draft stock of where we took him and the player that we thought we were getting. So for me on offense, I really want to see Christian Haynes be a game changer there at right guard. And then on defense, I'm going to go with Byron Murphy. I want to see Byron Murphy make some plays, make some impact. Not that he's not, so I'm not saying that. But I want to see, him kind of get rewarded for that in this game. And maybe teams focus on Leonard Williams and it leaves Byron to have some one-on-ones and he takes advantage of it. So I'm going to go in the trenches on both sides. Christian Haynes on offense for me and Byron Murphy on defense.
I like it, man. I agree with the Byron Murphy thing, man. Like, it's just, get rewarded for all the hard work you've been putting in. So that's a great call. I want to see that happen. My game changer, I'm going to start on the offensive side. And I know I've said it before. I think I mentioned his name before, but I think, and you mentioned this early on the show, that this is an opportunity. K9. He's got, for me, he's got to be a game changer. I think if he gets over 100 or, whatever the stat line is, but just being effective and being just a focal point for the Jets defense. And man, we can't stop this guy. Obviously, that's going to open up everything else. But because K9's a dog, man. And I just think, we mentioned the offensive line, but, Mike McDonald alluded to, it's not just that. It's a whole unit. And get Ryan Grubb getting a little more creative, put them in the best spots to succeed, whatever it is. And use him in the passing game too. You mentioned use him like LT, right? Like, just he is that dynamic of a back. So I want to see. That's my game changer. And on the defensive side of the ball, again, I know I've talked about him before, but again, I want to see, because he's had a couple of good games here. My game changer, Spoon. Again, if he can just be all over the field, you've heard his name called the last couple of weeks a lot. And, no coincidence that this defense he's just creating issues, whether it's, last game with it was 2 games ago with the tip ball and the Hankins pick.
Yeah,
was like
that was
Niners,
San
right?
Francisco, yeah.
So, but again, it's just all meshed up as a blur, because it was like Spoon was there wreaking havoc last week, wreaking havoc the week before. And good things are happening. But that whole defense, I mean, you could pick anybody, but I think if that guy's name is called a lot again on Sunday, I think good things are happening for this defense. So there you go, guys. Those are your game changers. Throw in the comments if you guys are watching this. We want to hear your game changers, game balls, game changers, whatever. Just throw them in there. Who do you think needs to have a real impact in this game for this team to be successful and come out with a win, man? So, we got a few more minutes, but we're going to get into, the weekly prediction. Got to hear, man, coming in here, it's a road game, you got them. Is it a tight game? What do you got here?
I'm going to say it's a tight game for the first half. And then I think Seattle pulls away. I don't think the Jets are going to be as bad as people think they are with their record. Again, I still think they're a talented team. They're just turmoil throughout. I'm going to say end of the first half, it's maybe 14-7 Seahawks. And then I think that game finishes, I'm looking with Seattle, what they score on offense. I'm going to say Seattle finishes with 30, and I think it ends up being 30-20 Seattle.
Okay, so they pull away, maybe a late one. Yeah, 30. Okay, I like it, man. I got them. I got 24-15 Hawks. That's what I got. I think. I mean, I love it if they put 30. I want to see the offense flow, and if they can start really flowing and Ken Walker, then yeah, I could easily see them getting to that point, that 30 mark. But right now, I got them at 24, and I just, I think you're going to see at least a turnover, a pick from Aaron. I think the pressure is going to come. I expect another good game for this defense. What I saw last Sunday, not only did you see a dominant defense, but a defense that's really starting to believe, and
Yep.
and the swagger and the attitude, just all that combined. And then you start being like, yeah, you know what? Maybe Mike McDonald is as good as he was advertised as far as a defensive mind. And now becoming that leader that guys are behind. So I really expect, and again, I'm not saying that 3-8 is reflective of how bad the Jets are, because I don't think they're a good football team, but they've been in games. So, but I think this defense is going to be ready to play. I think Mike's going to have them ready to play. So yeah, that's what I got. 24-15, guys. Throw in the comments section again. Throw out your predictions. We want to hear it. We control our own destiny, man.
We do.
If we come out of here with a win, and hopefully the rest of the NFC West loses, but man, then we go to Arizona. It's on us. The rest of the way, it's on us, and we're in the home stretch. And the thing is, guys, we talked all off season that what's your prediction? Wins? What do you want to see? And you and I, man, we weren't throwing out the win total right away, but our biggest thing was, how is this team trending in late November and into December? And it's late November going into December. And I think if we were sitting here a few months ago and said, look, when they play the Niners in Santa Clara and they play the Cardinals, this is how this team's going to trend, I think you and I would be pretty happy with that.
Totally. Absolutely would. And just to give our listeners context for this weekend for your, NFC West, the Rams are playing the Saints. So that should be an interesting one. The Niners, if it occurs and does happen on Sunday night, they're in Buffalo and it's supposed to be a snowstorm, which I don't think, benefits the Niners, even though they can run the ball.
How's Brock? Is Brock back?
They haven't said if he's going to play or not. Kyle Shanahan's been really coy. I think his shoulder's more buggered than people are leading on. And then the Cardinals, they got to go play the Vikings. That's not going to be an easy game for Arizona. So, if Seattle wins this and Arizona loses and we come back to play the Cardinals again, like, we could get a true good jump on this team and the rest of this division. So it's a big game for us. And yeah, man, let's hope that the Hawks put it all together again this weekend and come out with a victory.
Yeah, no, what a season, man. We talked about like enjoy the ride, and then it was looking bleak. Maybe we start talking off season, but it's really what you should expect in a new regime and a first year head coach, and it's really weird because it's really kind of trending what sort of we were hoping and maybe not expecting, but it's we knew we had the talent, and now we've sort of added some pieces and eliminated a couple of pieces, and it's really feeling like things are coming together. And there's still some work to do. There's still a lot of work to do, but you gotta be excited and happy if you're a Hawks fan where we're sitting right now with this squad.
Guys, just kind of letting you guys all know, coming up this weekend, we have our live post-game Q&A show. So make sure you guys who listen to this and our subscribers really get in there, flood that comment section, get your feelings on the game. We're going to be going live with that at 7:30 Pacific time on YouTube and Twitter. And again, guys, with your comments in that group chat, when we stream these things live, if you're on Twitter and watching, throw them in there. They populate in there. We'll put them up on the screen. And guys, on top of that, we're going to have a bit of a surprise. We're going to have an announcement on that live show heading up to the Christmas break here. We've got a cool thing that we're going to announce going through the next kind of back half of this season for everybody. So yeah, we look forward to, another Hawks victory. And you guys jumping in. We also have next week Mookie Alexander back on Monday for Pulse of the Hawks. And then we have the luxury the following day. We're going to be doing a recording with Greg Bell. He's going to be coming back onto the Hawkszone Rundown to give us an inside depth look at the Seahawks team and what he feels the second half of this season or last quarter of the season will look like for the Hawks down the stretch here. So a lot of cool things coming up, guys. We'll see you guys on Sunday, 7:30 live on the show. Ryan, any closing thoughts?
Nah, man, let's just let's get into New York and let's get out of New York with a victory. So that's it. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.